Hi there. So obviously link building is a massive part of what we do here at Design SEO, and I mean there's a huge number of ways in which we go about getting those links and how you can help yourself as well by trying to boost your link profiles. I've only got 15 minutes, so just going to focus on a few examples and of things I've done or we've done and other people, and so kick off. One sort of thing we talk about link baiting, which is putting content on your own site and then trying to get a link back. So this one here is called the ego bait, sort of playing to people's egos and hoping for a link off the back of that. So in this example, on a finance-related website, I created an article, 5 top bean counting frugals to follow. So it's basically people that ran frugal living, money type, personal finance type tips, and I looked up who were some of the biggest influencers around that topic, put together a list of the top 5, and then wrote an article on that. Now that in itself, if you sort of find your niche, that can be, it's been done before, but if nobody's done it for your niche, then perhaps that might help get you a bit of traffic back to that article via social networks, etc. They might retweet it or put it on their Facebook, etc. But I wasn't necessarily sure it was going to be enough to actually get a link back out of them. So what I did is I've got a little caricature done of each of those people. So for each of the 5, I've got a caricature done, hand drawn for them. And they only cost like $5 for each of those ones, so it was really cheap. It only took like $25 plus the time and actually researching, coming up with the idea, and writing the article. And then I reached out to those people. So I didn't hear back from all of them, but quite a few of those 5, like probably at least 3 of those 5, actually sort of responded in some ways, like retweeted, put it on their Facebook, etc. And because they're big influencers, that actually drove hundreds of visitors through to that article. But one of the guys, like this guy here, Phil Taylor, like he loved it, and he was really chuffed with his little bean, and he sort of got back in contact with me, and like he's been using it. I think he's just taken it off his Twitter now, but like for the last 5 months, or how long it's been since earlier this year, he's been using that as his Twitter profile image, and even this was only taken like today, he's still using it as his Facebook thing. So, but through that, like I then he'd never heard of me. By doing this, suddenly it gave him a reason to pay attention. And then we started like an email chain back and forth that said, love to do a guest post for your blog, which would be something that normally on his blog would be quite difficult to get. And he's like, yeah, sure, it would be great to get a guest post from you. So, and as a result of that, guest post on their website with only one external link sort of pointing out from that page. And that's sort of really valuable link. So that was sort of a creative thing by playing with their egos, and then sort of giving them a reason to actually engage, and then try and negotiate something from there rather than just trying to go straight in. So I did that on Fiverr. I was going to say, like a word of warning, use it creatively. That was like, I thought, quite a good use of it, but definitely like stay clear of anything dodgy on there. Like 18,000 backlinks is going to get you straight on that Google penalty wagon. So this is a little nice one that Dan's found, is an easy.gov.au link, which is actually really difficult to get that sort of link normally. So a lot of the states around Australia actually have a directory for things like those seniors schemes. So this one here is Queensland Government, Department of Communities, and you can actually register a new business there. So if you offer a discount to those carrying a seniors card, you can actually list that discount on here. So for example, we've got 10% off all search engine optimization packages. I don't know, Dan, how many I don't know how many senior citizens have been in touch, but we've got a link. So you know, you might not necessarily think it's relevant, but yeah, there's proof here. This is a real link. You know, that's a pretty valuable link that we've got coming back, and you know, it's something you might be able to do yourself. You never know, you might get some leads out of it as well. So this another idea. I mean, this one you've got to be pretty original with, but it's trying to think of marketing stunts. So jump on something that's either quite topical or do something that's a bit out there. So I don't know. I'll just maybe get a quick show of hands. I don't know if anyone saw this. Online retailer Kogan.com brought out an Internet Explorer 7 tax earlier in June. Did anyone here see that in the news? Or? Yeah, a few of you. So yeah, this one I thought was quite good. And it made me laugh. I know like probably anyone that works in sort of tech or website side of things probably cursed Internet Explorer for years. And so yeah, I mean this one they did because you know they sort of said that you know for the few percentage of people still using Internet Explorer 7, costs them like loads of money to actually make every single page compatible with it, the amount of work they have to do. So they put a tax on that, and it really is a bit of a joke. They didn't necessarily expect anyone was going to do it, but no one else had thought of that idea, and it just went crazy, like viral all around the world, on sort of BBC News, Los Angeles Times, New York Times, and it got someone that I guess people was keen to have a dig at Microsoft, so it was something that had a big appeal. It's not something that you can repeat, so I mean if you think, oh that's a good idea, like I'll go and put that on my website, we're completely pointless now, like, but if you know, if you think of something original, then you know, that's a great thing to do. Now this how this had an impact on them for link building. So this is using Majestic SEO, which looks at the links that they've got over the last like month or so, human put together, and they like released that sort of around the middle of June. So this is sort of when things have been discovered. So you can see it's sort of gone up. It was sitting around maybe like 3,000-4,000 backlinks that have been discovered to the site prior to that, and in the case of a few days, it shot up to about 17,500. So they've got over 10,000 backlinks been discovered in like literally a few days. So I mean that's a pretty awesome example. Links from places like BBC News, Mashable, huge spike in like Facebook fans and the level of engagement, and on Twitter as well. So hashtags around things like Kogan or IE7 tags have shot up. So all those social metrics as well, like the Google Plus, etc. A lot of talk on those things. So yeah, that's really going to be helping their rankings. So I don't have too long. I was just going to overwhelming list, but this is just a few ideas of like different things you can do, different styles of link building, I guess. So one thing is content curation. So it's always difficult trying to think of ideas for content, and sometimes, you know, there's already so much good stuff out there, you don't necessarily need to come up with all original ideas. So content curation is sort of looking at things that are already out there, and I guess creating that content and repackaging it into something slightly unique or useful. So it could be something as simple as, like, you know, finding the top 5 resources on a particular niche or something like that are out there in 5 different places. By you bringing that together in terms of a list and linking out to those 5, you know, that's something useful for someone. It could be taking data that's you know, the government's put out in sort of a very plain looking table type format or something, and you sort of visualising that data and making it more exciting. So different ways of doing that. It's quite a cool tool, a site you might want to have a look at called storify.com. And that lets you sort of curate content really, really easily. You type in you create a story basically. It's like a content management system, style, setup, but you can actually embed it into WordPress sites and all sorts of other sites. And that lets you search for things on like YouTube and what people have said on Twitter, public comments on Facebook, those sort of things, and actually just drag those things in to a story. So you could if something's quite topical at the moment in your industry, you could pull in what people are saying about it on Twitter, for example, and find influential people on Twitter, pull their comments in, and then sort of create that into a story. And once you've created something, it actually gives you the option of notifying all the people that you've mentioned. So you say, hey, I've mentioned you in my on my webpage here on this story about this or that, and I've done that for a few things now, and some of my clients as well, and it tends to get really big pickup as well. That they see that, possibly link back to it, or at the very least, a lot of them are sort of retweeting that and giving a Google +1, etc., and boosting your social metrics. Just quickly, blog awards. If you're in an industry where there's a lot of blogging around those sorts of niches, you could perhaps come up with an awards for that, and come up with top blogs around that category, and hand out awards and give them a badge that they can put on their site with a link back to you. Guest blogging is something we do a lot of, creating really good quality content for people on a topic that's relevant to what you do, but do it for their blog, make it editorial, make it something that's going to engage their users, and then you sort of get a link off the back of that. A tip with doing that is make sure that it is editorial, not advertorial, and have a look through their site as well and see what's done well with. So if they've got things like share counts for how many people have tweeted this or liked it on Facebook, what you might be able to do, especially on some WordPress page sites as well, they might make your job a bit easier, is actually have a popular post section or something like that in the sidebar. See if there's any trends in that. So they might have certain types of their articles that get 100, 200 likes or tweets or something, and others that get about 3 or 4. So you sort of try and pick up, okay, well this is the type of content that really appeals to them, and then write an article that's I guess in line with what those other articles were in terms of the style and so on. To apply this, sort of relate to health and doctors, doing something like a life expectancy calculator where you put in your lifestyle, like a questionnaire, and pops out how long do you think you got. That's the sort of thing that at the end of it maybe people might want to share on Facebook and stuff like that, and then it creates that sort of viral thing, and people linking into it as well. If you're in an industry where there's resources or tools that you might be able to review, being the first in on reviewing them, that might get you some links back. Creating unique data or research, that's something like we do here. Dan spends a lot of time doing research for studies and then publishing that, and by doing that sort of actually take stuff that I guess nobody else has got that data, creating a unique study, then create something unique that no one else has got, and therefore people might link back to it. I don't know if anyone's seen this, but there is a thing now on Google actually has got a thing, consumer surveys, where you can actually set up surveys either to general population or screen that down into particular segment of the population, and actually do surveys in very short time spans. So instead of actually needing an audience, of your own customers or something like that, if you want to do a survey on your products, or you ask them to review something on your website or ask a question or something like that, you can set up surveys really, really quickly. And that's the sort of great thing. You can do some ask a few questions and then perhaps turn that into a blog post and a media release and so on. Doing things that are topical to what's going on at the moment, so finding something that's quite topical. I saw something good recently. There was there's a website called wordstream.com, just for the Facebook IPO. They did something on like, is Facebook advertising effective? And they did something on that and like put an infographic together and put it out there and did a few press releases and stuff like that. Started getting a bit of pickup, and but then like because a lot of the news agencies and stuff like that were looking around for whether or not the IPO was going to be a success or not, and whether Facebook really was worth the crazy amount that was it was being listed as. They picked up on that, and the fact that it actually said that Facebook advertising was sort of suggesting it wasn't as effective as Google advertising. The whole thing sort of went crazy for them, and this something went from a little press release they put out and weren't sort of like the biggest company, and suddenly they're on like CNN and international news channels around the world, and sort of get their effectively what started out as just an infographic was getting put out there. Testimonials, so anyone you work with, if there's companies you work with, service providers, etc., even software, so some of these tools like we've just been talking about today, like if we really love them, then perhaps we might go back to them and say, this is an amazing tool, give them something and say, we'd be happy for you to use this testimonial on your website. So you sort of think about the software services you use, any providers, etc. Provide them with a testimonial, and they might put that on their website, and include your logo and a link back to your own site. So that's most of the ones I'm just going to cover off. There's a few, there's some, they're not as valuable, but things like web design, galleries and things like that, I wouldn't recommend doing it unless your website's quite something, I guess, a bit out of the ordinary or a bit special, otherwise you might get sort of slated, I guess. But there are some out there that sort of highlight exceptional design of websites, and there's a place there called the CSS gallery list that submits them to about 100 of those type of galleries that they then sort of get manually reviewed, so you might not get on that many depending on what your site's like, but if you have got a new site design then that's something that might get featured. Same like infographics, as well as if you do a good one, then hopefully it should get picked up by various places and they might link back to you. But there's also about 30 different sort of infographic websites where they'll include a link back to you. So that's a bunch of links to start with, and then a lot of people go to those sites as well, looking for infographics and things around a particular topic. So if by getting them on there, you might go and look, see if there's any health or is there any mining infographics or something like that. And by being on there, then you sort of increase your chances of your infographic being found, and then hopefully they'll do the right thing and include a link back to you as well if they actually take that and use it embed it into their own site. So there's loads of different ways of getting links, and these are just a few. Certainly, the way things have changed recently, you want to be avoiding any, fully automated ways of getting links, and it is hard work, but these are some of the ways, and these are some of the things that we do as well. So, that's it.